look at so we can become better acquainted with some of the players that you'll be seeing on your screens. Let's get to it right now.
This brief journey through the time tunnel of our competition is to remind you that two of the players involved know each other very well. Psycho on one side and Panic on the other. If we look at the latest matches between W7M and NiP, we can see the result is heavily NIP favoured, with 3 games played and 3 wins for NiP. The most recent of these occurred in the first stage, when Psycho and company won by a dominant 7-4.
A gente começou bem, mas acho que como a maioria dos jogos na temporada, o time não estava encaixado e faltou finalizar alguns rounds ali para sair com a vitória, mas foi uma partida até que boa.
A última partida contra a W7M foi numa vila, foi uma partida que a gente estava se encontrando ainda no vila. Creio que hoje a gente está bem mais preparado para essa partida.
Even after so many years as pro players, Psycho and Panic remain at the top of their game. However, the situation is very different for each. While NIP's leader commands his team towards the top, Panic's task is an ungrateful one, as his teams continue in the last position of the competition, and doesn't seem to have the strength to leave it. To make matters worse, they now have the world champions to
A
contend
NiP
with.
sempre é uma equipe muito forte e eles vêm com bastante play diferente, então é sempre um desafio grande, né? Agora campeões do mundo, mas é sempre difícil.
A W7M ela vem com 2 novas alterações, acho que é uma incógnita também pra gente e acho que vai sim ser um ótimo jogo.
A promise of a great game with a ton of experience from both sides. Panic or Psycho, who will get the win here? Check out the following confrontation between W7M and NIP.
Those are our teams, but of course, where will they be playing and why will it be? Coastline, once again, of course, we had 3 matches yesterday, Gio.
I missed out.
You had the ill fortune to miss out on 3 Coastline matches yesterday, dude. Where is it going to be this time? Let's get stuck into the map, Vito. And Gio, maybe you can give us some of your impressions about where you think we may be headed here.
Yeah, I'm actually interested to see if it is going to go back to one of those more kind of scrappy, aggressive maps, just because clearly they did well on... it was Consulate they played yesterday, right, which would come under that banner. We had all of the Coastline yesterday too. Chalet was the map that they played against Santos on last week and did well. So I'm wondering if that's going to be something that W7M want to lean into. They have enjoyed playing Smorgon, but NIP are getting rid of that straight away. Coastline... it's not in. Sorry, lads. We are not going to be going there. So, I mean, the main 3 aggressive maps have been taken out. So that's going to leave Clubhouse, which is not an aggressive map. It is a checklist tactical map, and I don't know anything about Rainbow Six Siege, so...
Well, excellent. We're getting the very top shelf here of what to expect now. So Clubhouse is the pick for this NIP W7M matchup here that we're going to kick off the action with. Let's talk about the teams that we're going to see here. We can start with NIP, and we'll start with you here, Ollie. NIP, one of the titans of the Brazilian league, one of the big 3, a team that constantly performs at the highest level. And based on what we expect, of course, we've been wrong. We were wrong yesterday, but based on what we expect, this team certainly heading into this match as the favourite.
Yeah, you can't give NIP anything other than favourite odds moving into this one. Sure, they were beaten last week against Black Dragons, but still, you've got to give them that credit and you have to give them that respect. A team that is very capable of bouncing back, obviously currently rated #1 inside of not only LATAM but the world as well. So a team that really does... speak for itself in terms of the players and what they are all capable of. The map does really intrigue me in that it is NIP's most played map. Now, that is a little bit of a skewed stat because obviously NIP took part in SI, W7M didn't, so NIP over the last 3 or 4 months have played a lot more Siege than W7M have, at least that we've got eyes on. Obviously what goes on in scrims is behind closed doors, but to my eyes and knowledge, I can't actually find a match on record for W7M playing Clubhouse, which means that they've probably not played it in the last 3 or 4 months, therefore it isn't going to be entirely relevant. So to actually end up on this map for NIP, I think is probably a win. Now, you are going to struggle to win a map ban against NIP because they have such a deep and varied map pool that they're going to be able to take you to. But I think that this is certainly going to favour NIP a little bit more, given that we kind of know what to expect from them on this map. For example, they've taken down teams like Liquid back in week number 1 of Stage 2 on this very map. So a team that is very capable here on Clubhouse, and I think it really fits their current playstyle.
We'll see exactly how W7M look to challenge them. I was really interested to get to know W7M a bit better yesterday, you know, with how they played in Consulate. You know, they brought out some strategies that I don't think people were expecting. But what really intrigued me was talking about them after the match. I think they have a good recognition of where they stand in the league, and I think they recognize what their goals are in quite a realistic sense. And coming into a matchup like this, Gio, one that is, you know, I think we're fair to characterize it as an unfavorable one for them. I think that knowledge of recognizing where they are and what they want out of a match like this is probably going to aid them. What are your thoughts on W7M as perhaps one of the weaker teams in this league coming up against NIP?
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to look at it. Like, it's almost a learning opportunity for them, especially when you've got this new leadership coming out from Mav and of course GDN in there as well. I think they're going to be able to look at this and then try and really break down what it is that NIP are doing against them. And they get the opportunity to try and obviously win. They're not going to be looking for anything else other than that. But regardless of what the outcome is, it's going to build a lot for W7M. And to say that they have a realistic understanding of where they are in this league, I think they would be silly to have anything but. You know, they are currently in last place. They've got a long road ahead of them if they're to break into even the top 6. But for them, I think it's that kind of that long-term sort of outlook where they want to be building this roster. They said in their interview that they had last week after they won against Santos, Panico said, we've been working really hard to try and not just be scrappy, not just be aggressive, but actually build on our tactics and play more methodically as well. So especially to come here on a map like Clubhouse, which, let's not forget, NIP demolished Team Liquid on in Playday number 1 of this stage. So they are not naive to how well NIP have been playing on it. I think that they'll be able to gain a lot from this map, regardless of what the outcome is.
One thing I'm really looking for here is, you know, we talked about this yesterday when with Liquid, the match there, where, you know, as the dominant team coming into that, what the team that is perhaps the less favored team, what they can get out of a matchup like this, you know, the small victories they can get. Now, ended up being quite a big victory because Team Liquid ended up being put in the dirt there. But Ollie, to bring you into this conversation, you know, you mentioned the fact that this is a consolidation phase, really, for W7. This is a phase where they're looking to build on what they have and play a longer-term game, you know, looking to months, perhaps years in the future to reposition themselves more favorably. So the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, and this is one of those steps, you know, facing off a team that's one of, if not the best in the league. This is where they can consolidate and start to, as Gio said, work on those fundamentals.
It really is, and that's what W7M seem to be doing week after week. It's a scary stat to sort of deliver, but they've come away with a point at least in all but one of the games they've played so far inside of Stage 2. Now that is a world away from the W7M that we saw inside of Stage 1. So already they're making big improvements. They're not massive, they're not going to be jumping to the top of the leaderboard anytime soon, but compared to the way that they're playing and the way that they're conducting themselves from Stage 1 to Stage 2, this is an entirely different squad. And that's really going to help them and assist them, because if they are able to tonight come up and give a little bit of hassle toward NIP, which I believe they will, then they're going to be in with a chance of, as we've said, you know, learning something, figuring things out a little bit better, building that coordination. W7M, this is a new side. You know, Mav only came in at the start of Stage 2. That isn't a long time. So anything that they get from this point onwards is a bonus.
Well, we're going to get stuck in right here and right now. Our players and the game are ready to go. So we are going to head down to the clubhouse, and you'll be in the capable hands of Gio and Ollie.
Thank you very much, Riley. We're going to jump in now to map number 1 of the night. Starting things with a bit of a bang here. NIP versus W7M. Clubhouse is going to be the map, as I'm sure that comes as a welcome relief to anyone that joined us yesterday. Did see a lot of coastline yesterday, and while it's a fun map every now and then, it did just start to feel like a little bit of a meme. But here and now,
I'm just gonna say I feel like I lucked out on the day that I took off. Let's put it that way.
I think you did really well, and
Thank you.
I think that Jacob may never forgive you / do you a favor ever again in your life. But
okay.
you know, we'll see. He really needs Jacob anyway, you know.
Well, exactly. I agree. That's why they don't let him cast in NA.
It's true. It is ironic that he's cast the best region, though.
I know. Damn it, shouldn't have let him on. Well, regardless, at least we get better maps today. Well, I'm hoping that this is setting a precedent for the rest of the day. 2 interesting bans straight off the bat. We've got double hard breach being banned. So Thatcher's still in. And we've still got Hibana as well. But Ace and Maverick off the board.
It's an odd 2 to remove, really, isn't it? I get the Maverick ban, but I don't really get the Ace ban anymore. Unless that's a sort of specific target, but to my mind, it isn't. You know, there's no one really on the side of NIP that mains Ace. Even Kamikaze, even when Thermite didn't have smokes, Kamikaze would still play Thermite, leaving Hibana in his...
loyal.
Yeah, he really is. He was loyal to the Fragmite, and you know why not? But just a bit of a strange one. I guess as well, leaving the Hibana in, you know, the hatches. Sure, you can have a chance at impact tricking, but borderline infinite X-Kairos pellets at this point on Hibana, it does make it a little bit more difficult. So we'll see how that sort of affects as we move through. But I think for the meantime, it's just going to mean a nice standard Thatcher Thermite combo.
Yeah, but it's just 1 hard breach. And they're going to be attacking onto the basement as well. That's an interesting one from my perspective, because you're very limited for what you can open. Of course, you're only carrying 2 exothermic charges. So you only have the option to open up 2 hatches. And, I mean, okay, there are no impacts actually being held on the side of NIP, so they don't need to worry about impact tricking per se, but you're still very limited.
I think that's a lineup that looks like W7M were maybe anticipating CCTV and Cash first up. You know, you've got the Thatcher, you've got the Thermite. We've probably got a rehost on our hands as we do see players dropping out of the lobby. Everything, I believe, will have to stick, though. So I hope that everyone has paid good attention there to the operators, because the players and teams will have to select like for like, same site, same lineup. And it's going to hurt a little bit now. I think that W7M know that they're going downstairs.
Yeah.
I would imagine that they would have much rather picked a Hibana there.
Yeah, that was just the really strange thing for me. Like, yeah, cool, you got your Thatcher, awesome. Where's the other hard breach? How are you going to break down into the basement? I don't know. I guess we'll have to look to see how that is. The fact that they brought a buck is definitely indicative of going on a basement attack. That's the thing, is like, you can bring a buck to attack onto CCTV, but it's certainly not something that you would necessarily... I think if you're going to be handed a lineup and it's got a buck and you just have to blindly say which side you think you're attacking on, you would probably pick the basement side. So we've kind of got conflicting things going on there, and I'm interested to see how it is that W7M are going to utilize these lineups that they've brought along. Because, and I can't off the top of my head remember which game it was, but we did have another game a couple of weeks ago where there was a similar thing, and it was just I think it was just a Thermite that was brought to attack onto a basement, and the problems that we found were very similar. You have to use the main stairs, or you have to use the blue stairs to break in, and you have to move in through these narrow choke points because you simply can't apply any kind of vertical pressure. You don't have different options for making it down onto the site. The only other real thing you can think of is maybe opening up Dirt Tunnel, but as soon as you've announced via sound cue that you're going in through Dirt Tunnel, then they can kind of just block it off. So it certainly can come with its hindrances, and there's going to be a bit of a fight there for W7M to actually make that work, I think.
We've got a nice little reminder there of the operator bans. Cade and Valkyrie come in as the 2 defender bans there. Obviously with the Thatcher up, it's not the end of the world with the Cade being gone, as you would still expect to be able to get those hatches open and to do that task. But the Valkyrie being removed is always a good sort of thing to note, and I think it speaks quite well to how NIP as a team actually use that operator for information. If NIP do find themselves in the mood to play a little bit aggressive and really get out there and search out their own kills off the back of those cameras like we often see Psycho do, it can be a little bit of a problem with it. So we are going to see that one removed out there by W7M. No major surprises there, but I think on the whole, W7M are going to have a tougher time of things here, mainly in that they start on the attack as well. Obviously, we did sort of theorize as to how we ended up on Clubhouse, a map that I would imagine W7M have put a lot of work into this map in scrims. It kind of shocked me to see that it hasn't been played recently by them, and that would suggest that, you know, Clubhouse is a standard map. Everybody knows how to play it. It's not one that you can afford to exclude from your map pool, especially inside of a best of one environment in something that's as sort of hotly contested as this, where you really are going to get forced to go onto those maps, especially against a team like NIP. So I think W7M, they've obviously got clean ideas of how they want to try and approach things here, and maybe just I'm kind of desperate to get into the game, really, because I want to see how this sort of Thatcher Thermite combination is going to work, where the focus is going to be. Because yesterday we saw W7M play some really nice pocket strats, and it's not sort of disrespectful to call them that, but it was things as simple as bringing a pulse and bringing 5 C4s, like almost back to basic siege, and just making the simple things very difficult indeed. And it ended up winning them the game yesterday, so they were able to sort of really put that to the test, if you will. Now, Clubhouse is a map where you can come up with, you know, pocket strats, and there is things that you can start to incorporate into your game to really give you that little bit of an edge. And if this is stuff that W7M have sort of practiced in dry runs, then, you know, there's a chance that they're actually going to have a good idea of how they just want to use a thermite when they're attacking into Church and Arsenal, if that's exactly where they know they're going.
I want to recall as well back to Playday number 1 when NIP did beat Team Liquid, and one of the things that we noted a lot about their play was how efficient their roam clear was. Oh my god, and we will have to wait until the second half to actually see that, because of course, as you mentioned, NIP is starting off on the defense here, but it was so good against Team Liquid. And when we got a chance to speak to Julio after that game, he said that one of the things that NIP had specifically been focusing on after SI was neatening up their roam clear on Clubhouse of all maps. It was a really big priority for them. So the fact that NIP have been very specifically working on NIP been working on NIP. The fact that NIP have very specifically been working on Clubhouse, for me, I find that kind of nerve-wracking on the side of W7M. And again, that's where we come back to this whole point of W7M haven't really played it. What is it they've got up their sleeve? What are these interesting, compositions that they're going for? How are they going to use this? Is it going to be effective against NIP? Of course, these are questions that everybody is going to be thinking. But just knowing how much NIP have been focusing on this map in particular, it's ballsy. It's really gutsy.
It is. It's this is their most played map. NIP have played it 11 times, and they've got a 73% win rate. And that isn't just inside of Brazil. That's against international teams as well, inside of best of threes. So it's ballsy's one way of putting it, Gio. I'll give you that. Yeah. W7M really do want to take things the more difficult way, it seems. But we are now back in the game. We thank you for your patience during that. I think it was bit of a struggle getting one of the players to reconnect, but fingers crossed everybody is in now and we're good to go, so we can start to enjoy this opening game. W7M starting here on the attack. Already we've looking at length about where these Ixcaros pellets are going to be used. Herds, what are you exactly doing here? He's already got himself down. He's in. Oh my god. This guy's like outside of church. We've seen, what, 30 seconds, and he's going to find himself potentially a freebie onto Julio. That's it. It's job done. You can log out and take yourself home. You can now start to play the mirror window. There's a bit of utility here that he can look to remove as well. But already, he occupies such a powerful position inside of sight. Now, the question is, where is the rest of his team?
Well, this is interesting as well, because one of the things that I said was that they may be limited to main stairs and blue stairs, but if Hertz can hold on to the area behind Generator, where you typically see a Jaeger sit watching for anyone coming down blue stairs, he can keep Muzi out of that position, and it means that as soon as W7M start to pressure blue stairs, there isn't really a safe place in blue for NIP to defend at all, and that could really facilitate their move down. Now, Pino's going to come straight into church, but you can tell that Hertz... No, come on!
Oh,
no,
man.
there's no way that just happened!
Well, Kamikaze comes in as the cleanup crew. Pino's going to be kicking himself there. The Nitro Cell costing him his life. A strange opening to the round, it's fair to say, but one that hasn't really given W7M all too much. Sure, they've been able to get themselves 2 kills, but in terms of what has been achieved elsewhere, that's actually very little. They've managed to push a couple other players from NIP off the roam, because we did have that sort of Mute Mozzie combo out there trying to waste a little bit of time, and I guess they've still done that. But with such direct pressure in onto site, I think it maybe confused W7M and made it a little bit more difficult for them to effectively clear that side out, because now they're sort of left where they've got sub 1 minute remaining still. The hatch isn't open still. Kitchen floor isn't that open. There's nothing really on the cards here. They've got a mirror window to contend with if we want to go down an open church wall. So, again, just strange, disjointed sort of process here from W7M. Mav's going to get himself down. The hatch will be open there. But this is just like dropping into the meat grinder. Panico is inside of blue. He's got a glimpse of somebody in tunnel. Can try and hold that, but realistically, what is he going to be able to do? He still needs to get his team in and try and get the plan down. If this push is going to come entirely through dirt tunnel, it's going to be met by the shotgun of Kamikaze. Finds himself 1 and a second. Big round there for Kamikaze. Picking himself up a triple. NIP, not scared or worried by that little opening rush from Herds.
I mean, I think a lot of our questions were answered about how they were going to attempt that, and it was entertaining, if nothing else, but as you say, NIP relatively undeterred, and the position that Kamikaze was taking was just fairly untouched, and it was a slight oversight, I think, from W7M to kind of try and peg it down that tunnel without really... They didn't drone themselves in. They didn't know that Kamikaze was there. So even though great droning at the start to bring Herds in, that kind of started to deplete.
Yeah, it did. And I think Herds potentially got a little bit lucky there. You know, we could see him moving down again, and it's just one of those things. It's not very repeatable. The lack of barbed wire on main stairs is maybe a little bit of a problem from NIP, the lack of early warning system. But then again, you really don't expect somebody to just push all the way down. Typically, you'd play a roamer on that sort of half landing, if you didn't have one all the way upstairs, of course. So certainly a strange start to the proceedings here today, but we move upstairs to gym and bedroom. It's going to be NIP's second choice site.
I love seeing bandits. Let's have a look at the poll, though, first to see what the Twitch chat thinks. Naturally, Ninjas in Pyjamas are the favorite today. 83% to just 17 who have faith in W7M Gaming. So we'll have to find out if that is going to come to fruition. But yeah, I love seeing a bandit, and because Thatcher is available in this game, it makes sense why you're going to be bringing that kind of wall denial that you can actually do some tricking with a bit better here for our gym and bedroom defense.
What shenanigans are W7M going to try and pull off this time? Seems too much. Now moving relatively slowly. This time rocking the double hard breach, which is at least something here. They're going to be able to at least get this east wall open along with Jacuzzi. He just looking to have a quick jump on the drone, make sure no one's in position to immediately run out, and maybe just wait for a little bit of backup from his team. There isn't that much pressure going on inside of the Jacuzzi area. A lot of it's really focused toward this cash and CCTV side, and it's somewhere that Liquid hold exceptionally well. Now the Thatcher's going to assist in getting the wall open. Michael's bandits are still actually in his pocket. I would have thought he would have placed a couple out there. It's going to be Pino to open things up here. He does take down Panico removing half of that hard breach already.
Oh, Julio actually doesn't quite get a kill there, but he nips at the ankles. I suppose that's enough. Get rid of the drone on your way out. It doesn't look like W7M are really sending down some kind of roam clear to deal with him. They're just sticking to their own plan. Now, there's a few players here, 3 on this east side of the map. So Herds, being the kind of main entry, is going to be predominantly in charge of clearing them out. Kind of patiently waiting. You can see that they actually have that presence on the red stairs specifically as well. Really nice C4 coming in from Pino to get rid of Guy and Mav. That's going to make it so much harder. Herds has kind of just got to poke straight into Cash to look to get rid of any of these players, but he's going to be the victim instead, and it's just GDN on his own.
There's a Pino round. He's making up for that little misplay he made previously. He's saying, look, yeah, I can play the game. I know what I'm doing. Trust me. Believe me. Last kill comes in. Pino cleans up the ace. Very well deserved indeed. That double C4 was a thing of beauty. All the kills there achieved inside of Cash and CCTV. W7M really tunneling in onto the setup that NIP had established there. And the thing is, that isn't a new setup from NIP. That's not a new setup from anyone. We see a lot of teams employing, you know, utility, deployable shields, ADSs, whatever it might be, in that area when defending gym and bedroom. But NIP are a team that consistently do it, and they consistently do it very well. There was nothing there from W7M to actually get rid of any utility. Herds didn't deploy the lifeline onto the shield to deal with Muzi at the top of Cash. Sure, we've got ADSs there, but we've got a Thatcher available. A little bit more coordination on the side of W7M, and they would have been able to start chipping away and removing a little bit of that utility. It didn't help that they lost Panico early as the Hibana, because that was then a lot of their hard breach potential gone, especially when Guy's the one that's already opened the door. If Panico had already opened the door, then it would have been a little bit better. But still, a big loss in the early round, and W7M, again, just lacking that killer instinct, and honestly, not really using the utility.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I don't even know if it's like a killer instinct thing. It's more just what do they really have to clear out those players, right? You know, especially
everything they could have wanted.
Well, yeah, I mean, but they weren't using it.
That's what I mean. They had everything they wanted, but they just weren't using it.
Yeah, and it was just very timid. So it's like, you know, we know that you're happy to send Herds in. We've seen it in round 1, and you were getting him peeking around the corner. But like Herds isn't. Yeah, it's like, all right, Herds, he drew the short straw. You go in, mate. And Herds is like, no, please, can we just like use it? Like, please, the nade is right there, dude. It's right there.
Well, it could be a short day, but we'll see how it transpires. W7M struggling to find success here, and honestly, this site isn't going to be any easier. We are seeing the Bandit in play, which is kind of nice. And it's nice, especially given that we have the Thatcher, because you think that that's, you know, a bit of a direct counter. With the addition of the Mute as well, NIP have got the capability here to really be a little bit of a problem and try and keep hold of that east wall for as long as possible. I want to see where they try and deploy that utility, and if they are really going to drag W7M into that sort of bandit tricking play.
Well, I know they're going to have to clear out what's going on down below. Once again, it is Psycho. He did head down the blue stairs, but holding that position... I mean, he's by the main stairs now, but he was by the blue stairs before. Holding that position down in storage makes it really hard to gain control, because you could always have the vertical angles being used against you. That has to be cleared out, and you can tell that Mav is kind of on the hunt here, heading in from behind, but doesn't have direct information as to the whereabouts of Psycho himself.
Psycho has just been given a little bit of an audio cue there. Mav just tried to wallbang through one of the soft walls, and it's enough to sort of scare Psycho back to that main stairs. He can hold him with softer defense now. He doesn't need to hold directly underneath. He knows that he's going to get challenged there. And in actual fact, it looks like he might make a full rotation all the way. Julio trying to challenge on the upside down. Repel goes out for the C4. Isn't going to land, but Pino's once again does. Muzi as well picking up a kill, so both the hard breach has gone. Any progress that was looking to be made through that construction side now will be no longer. Although it does look as though W7M's plan initially was just to get garage and that east wall. So far, it really isn't doing them all too many favors. Herd's the next one up to the breach, trying to push his way on through, but he too will be sat down. GDN finds himself what is likely an exit frag at this point, as there are only 25 seconds that remain. Does have the diffuser, and he's going to pick up a second, actually, onto Psycho. Players from NIP in danger now of just gifting all of these kills away, but Muzi, what a round he has had. 3 kills on the round. Everywhere he needs to be when it matters most. NIP, again, not looking too pressured upstairs.
It is funny, isn't it, how these more old school setups for Clubhouse are causing a bit of a problem for W7M. You know, you have the Thatcher available to you, and so far it's done nothing for you. And it's kind of unsurprising to me that they've decided to forego that for this next round. You know, yeah, you could use it against the Bandit and try and get the walls open, but I think teams at this point are so used to playing without Thatcher that it almost feels a little bit alien. And you can tell that W7M's attempts are very slow. They're great at getting a first wall open, but as soon as they know that there are players from NIP who are playing off-site, they have really struggled to go against them. Whether that be the cash hold that was being done in round 2, whether that was Psycho playing downstairs there in round number 3, there is no thorough or exhaustive roam clear that's being done from W7M that's really yielding any results, and it's wasting a ton of time. You get players who are picked off before you get to a point at which you want to execute. And by the time you actually reach said point, there aren't enough players to do an effective execute, and they just get finished off by NIP, who are waiting with their jaws open.
Well, we see NIP go back downstairs now. I think, as you mentioned quite rightly, W7M really bother with the Thatcher here. There's other things that they can bring to the party that are going to make it a lot easier, and biggest difference really in this lineup is the fact that they've actually brought 2 grenades, or 2 sets of grenades, should I say. You've got the Ayana and the sledge. NIP are going to be looking to stamp down on this authority. That'll have been a great kill. But, you know, we could see him get himself onto that elevated angle inside of logistics, and he's managed to take Mav down as I imagine he gets himself off the rappel. Now, I don't know if that's a player tendency, just a hot spot that he knows that Mav's going to rappel on, or somebody will. It's a freebie that Pino is able to gain. Pino not died since round number 1 and currently sitting on 7 kills. Obviously, he had the ace. He's been playing exceptionally well with that. Panico is going to find a refrag. It could put a little bit of pressure onto this roam game, as that's where W7M's focus is right now.
Oh, nice reaction time there from Guy to clean up Pino, but there's going to be Julio ready to trade Herds as well. So 3 versus 2 right now. Nice flick from Kamikaze. He was really the king of the castle when NIP were last defending this site. Now, of course, W7M's approach, or I suppose idea of an approach, did change for this round in particular. And so much of the fights have happened upstairs that we haven't really got to see much of how their ability or idea on breaking into the basement has changed. One of those things is the Hibana, of course. So being able to open up the Moto hatch, they can actually drone down there, get an idea of what's going on below without it being because they're sending herds in within the first 10 seconds of the round. And I would imagine that GDN and Panico are going to stay quite close together, given that it's only those 2 remaining.
Still going to be able to try and get some of this utility cleared, and they're going to remove the hatch inside of stock. 2 versus 2, they've still got to give odds here to NIP. We just know how powerful a sight this can be, especially when there are 2 Toxic Babe canisters left. Julio just baited out there by the Gemini briefly. It's going to give Panico a little bit of a heads up. Kamikaze going to dig himself in behind the bar and look maybe just to play the shotgun close. He isn't sitting on too much health. The Gumai going to go off, and that's going to give Julio a little bit of a heads up. Now they know for sure that this push is definitely coming through. Blue Panico. Nice little shoulder peek that converted into a swing there onto Julio. Now the pressure really on Kamikaze. He still has one Toxic Babe canister left, but with the plank going down, he needs to try and advance through. He's currently being held from just behind the generator, and he will be taken down. Panico making something happen there, finding those final 2 frags, and I guess more importantly, covering his teammate as the plant was going down.
Yeah, they had a much better idea in that one. And even though it was messy and everything that happened upstairs did happen, W7M did once again go for the attempt of a roam clear. They had a better idea of how to actually breach into the basement, because bringing the double heart breacher, not worrying about the Thatcher, not trying to rush in too early. By the time they actually got down, it was a 2 versus 2, and it's a very big area when you consider the entirety of the basement. To be defended by just 2 players, if you can isolate and single out one of those players while supporting each other on the attack, you should have a pretty good advantage, and that's what W7M did do. Now, NIP, they're looking like they're going to be going back downstairs, clearly unhappy with the way that round went. W7M have made a slight change, opting to bring a Jackal this time. I think that is probably a good idea, given that they have been struggling with having a clean roam clear. Jackal is one of those operators that you would look to help answer some of those questions.
It really could just add a little bit more pace into the mix, couldn't it? And Herds has played the Zephyr for a couple of rounds in a row, but honestly, we haven't really seen a lot out of Zephyr's utility there. It makes sense to kind of mix things up, bring the Jackal, give yourself a couple more options, and try and deal with NIP a little bit more head-on. But NIP's lineup has also changed. Instead of the sort of Mute Mozzie combination, they've now opted for what look to be a lot more site-centric operators in the Mirror and the Echo. You know, still going to be playing on that Mute, but I would be surprised to see a heavy off-site presence here. I think it's more than likely just going to be Pino or Muzi on their own, just trying to play for a little bit of time waste and maybe a kill or so, but they're not really looking to fully commit to this. It could, of course, be being bolstered by the Yokai drones as well. W7M make their approach through this gym side.
Gym side is where they came in through last time. Just found a lot of bloodshed there at the same time. Now, as you say, not really expecting NIP to have much presence upstairs, and as far as I can see, there aren't any orange silhouettes up there. So W7M, they can drone out, use the Jackal tracking. I don't think it's going to take them too long to decide that it's pretty safe for them to drop through, make their way in. Mav playing up through logistics to open up the kitchen floor from relative safety using the skeleton key. We did see him, when he was trying to open up the kitchen floor a couple of rounds ago, end up getting DBNO'd, had to be picked up, so it's just kind of safer to do it from upstairs, especially if you know that you're safe and there's no roamers around to hurt you. This drone from Guy is quite nice. You can see if NIP are going to be peeking their way out, especially as the hatches are getting opened.
Seeing Mav opening up that angle is very reminiscent of something that W7M were doing on Chalet as well, where they were trying to open up the floor from sort of 2 floors below, and just really sort of holding those kind of extravagant angles and really flexing that map knowledge to its fullest. Not always the most efficient, but it gets the job done in a bit of a safer manner, and we can see that he has managed to keep himself alive while doing so. Everybody on the side of NIP has stacked the site now, so Jackal pick, whilst it was a good idea, it hasn't had an immediate impact on clearing this roam, because no one really from the side of NIP was looking to roam too heavily anyway. And that's the main reason that they tried to give it another go down here, is they were more than happy to just play the site and know that it is a very powerful site to force attackers to drop in. You see the smokes coming through now as an execute is going to be imminent. Tycho, one tap over onto GDN, not making a big deal of that one at all, and that's the diffuser now cold underneath the hatch. Panico gets himself down to Pino. Herds finds one from kitchen hatch, but really it is not going to be enough at this moment in time as the final 3 kills come in. Muzi, again, just the right place at the right time.
I think there's also something to be said for the fact that even if W7M had made it down a bit sooner and actually survived the drop through the kitchen hatch, NIP had brought along both a smoke and an echo. We saw the yokai drone just chilling out on the ceiling, not too far from the kitchen hatch itself. So choosing to make that execute with just 30 seconds remaining, you haven't cleared out any of those defenders. They're sat down there waiting for you in the shark tank. That kind of anchor utility is specifically designed to make those final 30 seconds really difficult. So what W7M ideally would have had is, as soon as they realized that there wasn't like a roam game coming out, that should expedite the process of getting through the rest of the map. And I don't think they necessarily did it as fast as they could have. I don't think it was bad, but it's just the fact that you then know that NIP are going to be playing a very heavy anchor strategy, and you haven't really done anything to negate that. So the worst of your nightmares for that round are still yet to come. Add that with the fact that you're dropping down one by one with like 15 seconds to go, it doesn't bode too well for you.
Well, let's see how round number 6 goes. It's going to be the last round of the defense here for NIP. So far, they've had a very successful defensive phase, and I'm sure they're going to look to try and make it a nice little 5-1 sweep. W7M going to be attacking up into gym and bedroom. Now, previously, this was a site that they didn't even get close to. This extended hold into cache and CCTV by NIP is often very difficult to challenge onto, and it requires a heck of a lot of coordination to remove players like Pino. Of course, getting the ace last time. And NIP have set up in pretty much exactly the same way, really doubling down on that catch utility with not only a Wamai but a Jaeger as well.
Well, we'll see how they do. I mean, knowing as well that W7M are a team who, when you look at the players on them, in theory, they should be throwing nades left, right, and center. They love their nades. They've been bringing Sledge a couple of rounds. This time, they only got the Yana to carry them. So the fact that that hasn't really been something that's been lent into too much by W7M is intriguing. And then, of course, you look at the fact that NIP have brought the Wamai and the Jaeger, kind of makes it even harder. Haneko's going to send down the nade now that utility has been cleared, and that should, in theory, clear out red stairs. There is still, well, maybe not one player left down there as Psycho's taken down.
That's much better from W7M. That's pretty much exactly what we want them to be doing here, and that is actually using the utility to clear out those players. Now NIP are getting pressured a little bit. Psycho can no longer sit in that powerful angle. We've got Herds holding a nice little cross there. He's able to take down Julio. Kills can continue to fly on through. Muzi eventually will be taken down. Pino and Kamikaze now left up against Mav, as Mav is at the top of these cache stairs, already receiving some shots. Going to be able to pick the diffuser up on the way through, but doesn't stop him from being in the 2 versus 1. Best location to be in right now. 40 seconds do remain. Everybody pretty much knows where he is here, and NIP aren't going to try and thirst onto this too much. I'm going to be given an opportunity here of potentially using the skeleton key to give himself another line of sight, but he will eventually be taken down. Kamikaze playing quite a dangerous game there. All it would have taken would have been one stray shot from Mav to take him out, and it would have been a 1v1, but still, NIP come away there with a nice little 5-1 split.
Oh, it's going to be hard. Going to be hard for W7M to bounce back from this. We did, of course, say that their attack was probably going to be quite difficult for them. Going into NIP, being on the side that kind of requires that extra level of coordination. It being a relatively new map for W7M because they haven't played it in the last however many months. And even then, prior to that, it would have been a different roster for W7M anyway. So, you know, this is new territory for them, and they're going against the kings of the turf. So it was naturally going to be a very difficult attacking half for them. I want to see if they're going to bring out those pocket strats that we saw from them yesterday. Obviously not the exact same ones. Consulate and Clubhouse are 2 very different maps. But I want to see them have some kind of personal planning. for this half. You know what I mean? I want to see what juicy things they've got up their sleeves. They're going to be starting off on CCTV. NIP, interestingly, for the attack, have decided they are going to bring Thatcher, which is something that W7M decided to give up on about halfway through that first half. But the only denial that they're really bringing along is Mute, which is kind of what you would expect anyway. You don't really need a Thatcher to get rid of Mute. They haven't decided to go down that bandit route that NIP did to directly counter the Thatcher, to force them into that tricking cycle where you basically try and waste the EMPs. So it's interesting to me, W7M had that opportunity and they've decided not to go for it.
Let's see how W7M do want to try and keep hold of this. There's a heavy investment there into Wamai and the Jaeger, and they're looking to try and control Garage because of that. Rooney as well being thrown into the mix. It puts quite a bit of pressure now on the throwables. Fortunately, NIP have brought 6 flashes that they're going to be able to try and burn through with. Interestingly, no nades. So it does put a bit less pressure, I guess, onto those ADSs. You're not really expected to be naded out. You don't have to be looking to remove them. It's nice to, if possible. Bottom garage will be open, but NIP are going to mount this attack. Kamikaze just going to drone Muzi in below, as Muzi's probably going to use the lifeline to hassle and destroy some of those mute jammers, if they are even placed on that east wall.
Oh, I was going to say Herd's going for the 1v1, but he died before I even managed to finish the sentence, so never mind about that one. Julio also going down, so it's 4 versus 4, no direct man advantage at this point. Mav is going to be kind of recalled. He's playing something of a roam, but not being challenged right now, as Guy is the next one to fall. The next victim of the F2 in the hands of Psycho. NIP aren't making any kind of rush.
No, NIP aren't looking to rush this too much. I mean, you say that, but Pino has already got himself into Garage now. Now, whilst he's only really in a position to hold an angle from here and he is being called out on the Woodward, but he's still able to cut the site in half. Could try and assist one of his teammates coming on in, and obviously Garage control that comes with that. Panico gets a little bit impatient there. Eventually will be taken down, and that is the cue to call. That is now the breach being opened. Babe Canisters trying to stop flood, or the inevitable flood of players coming in. That barbed wire being in position is going to give the game away, but I don't think that Pino is going to be too concerned about that. Giving up Garage was a bit of a questionable one, but still it leaves Mav in the 1 versus 3. Now he has to try and fight on through, and really, what are you going to do? You're going up against 3 of the best gunners in the game. Psycho takes him on down there. NIP, match point.
It's come quickly, hasn't it?
It has.
And well, I mean, NIP did have their first loss of the stage last week. So now the cycle starts again, and we go back to what we were doing in Playday number 1, where they 7-1 Team Liquid and repeat. So we can just predict, going forth, we can predict every single scoreline that NIP are going to get, right? Well, I mean, W7M have the chance to prevent that. But if it does be a 7-1, there's going to be some clairvoyance going on.
Mystic Geo.
Yeah, that's me. Don't I give you, like, psychic vibes? I'm so paranormal.
Have I told you that before?
Ooh. No.
Oh. No, I can imagine you used to have, like, crystals and things, and, like...
Me? Really?
A crystal ball, yeah?
No, I'm like...
But, like, it's a dark side of you. Like, it's not a side you can show, you know?
I'm one of those people who, like, if you turn around to me and were like, hey, let's go for a tarot reading, I would be like, sure, while deleting your number at the same time. Like, no, not for me.
No, I'm not really into that sort of stuff either. Well, maybe we can predict Siege. Maybe that's the gift that you were given. was predicting scorelines in Siege, particularly when NIP are involved, because I mean, it's not been easy to predict them, but they've played exceptionally well throughout stage 1. It was the writing was on the wall, really, that they were going to come out here tonight and give us a good showing. But I'll admit, I wasn't expecting it to be match point already, having seen such a decisive game. We've not really seen W7M log into the server all too much. You know, there's been 1 or 2 rounds where they've been present, but aside from that, it's something that they've really been struggling on.
Julio is going to be forced back a little bit, getting stunned out. GDN bringing the Gojmot mines on Ella. Now, I want to see, it doesn't look like W7M are playing all too far from the site, even though when you look at their operator lineup, it's not too dissimilar from a typical Clubhouse roam. And they don't actually have any really stringent anchors, you know? No smoke, no echo. I mean, Mav's playing upstairs, but I think he might be the only one.
Panico going to be playing down, as not unusual to see the Vigil out on the roam, especially for a bottom floor site, but really NIP aren't paying them any attention at the moment, and you get the impression that Panico is sort of getting a bit antsy and like, come on guys, why aren't you pushing me? Instead, Leo's got himself into the site. He's going to be playing AK. He's going to get a chance at one onto Panico.
Oh
and
my
a second
God.
onto Hurt. He nearly picked up the third onto Mav. He chunked him down to half. Kamikaze, he's going to be getting the plant down. Mav knows this. He uses the C4 to open the rotate. He's going to be getting held on from that long angle. Still a player on the hatch. In fact, that player has just dropped Pino. Questionable play, but still gives NIP an advantage. He's going to have a line of sight now onto that diffuser. But the players from NIP aren't giving themselves up too easily. Muzi finds a very important down there onto Mav. Kamikaze picking up that final kill as well. A little bit of a closer and more scrappy round than the rest of the game, but still it is enough to put NIP over the line and give them a 7-1 win here tonight against W7M.
Nice nippy game, and I don't think NIP got all too prescient, to be perfectly honest. And after seeing some of the improvement come out from W7M over the last couple of weeks, I felt like this was a little bit, you know, less than what we've been getting from them recently. But regardless, we spoke at the beginning about how, regardless of whatever the scoreline is, they're going to gain a lot from this game. And I should imagine that that's going to be true. But, I mean, look at NIP aren't even really celebrating that much. They're just like, right, yeah, we're done. Let's get up.
Yeah, it's job done for NIP, really, isn't it? I think they'll have been going into that one expecting to win. We'll obviously get to pick Julio's brains after this, as well as we'll be getting, I'm sure we'll be getting an interview with him. But I think for NIP, a good day at the office. You know, they've gone in, they've done the job, they've got the expected result there, and they've not stumbled like we did see them do previously. Whereas, it could have been one of those games that, W7M come out and have a bit of a performance. But so far, they do seem to struggle when they go up against the absolute top of the league here. We're going to bring Riley back in. We're going to get his views on that match. It's another opportunity for Riley to see another map that we have available here in Siege other than that coastline.
Yes, indeed. We're getting all the action there from Clubhouse. And, as you say, is it just another day in the office here for a team that is one of the best in the league there? I'm trying to look for ways that, we talk about what the role of a weaker team is in matchups like this. They can come in, they can try things out, they can attempt to stamp some sort of level of authority over the game, but I just don't really see what W7M take away from that one. We talked yesterday about weaker teams seeking smaller victories, right? Gio, what can W7M take from this match, if anything?
I mean, I think that there were certainly things that they can look at that were quite like garish mistakes and say, okay, going forward, we need to do that. Looking in some of those earlier rounds, some of their early droning in the rounds were great, but then later on, when you get to the mid round, a little bit later in the round, their droning was actually kind of weaker, and that led them to, walking into the barrel of a number of guns. The fact that they didn't have a particularly substantial roam in some of those later rounds. I mean, even if you're bringing a full roam setup, then surely that's what you want to be leaning into, and yet you only have one player who's entirely upstairs, and you're kind of trying to make up for your lack of an anchor, or the fact that they simply could not deal with NIP playing off-site. You know, these are big things that they can look at and say, okay, that is very specifically something that we have to focus on.
Looks like we're going to be able to bring someone in from NIP here. Julio standing by, I believe, ready to join us for an interview here to get across exactly what was going through maybe some of the minds of the players there. Welcome, Julio. Thanks so much for finding the time to join us, mate, and congratulations on the win. We've sort of characterized the performance there as just another day in the office for NIP. What's the mood like amongst the team coming away from such a confident 7-1 victory?
Yeah, we have a pretty good clubhouse. I think they try to counter us, but like I said in other interviews, like we can ban Maverick, Thatcher, we can play a lot of different clubhouse, you know. So it's pretty hard to counter, and I think that's it.
Julia, one thing that I'm really interested in is it seemed that when you were on the defense, you had a very strong off-site defense. So whether that was a full roam or whether it was something like a cache-based defense for a gym and bedroom, site, that seemed to be something that W7M really struggled to go against you guys on. What do you think made your off-site defenses as strong as they were?
I think we have a good offside defense, and we saw that they were like really slow hunting the roamer. So like we can stay there and kill them, or just go back to the bomb site, and that was our strategy. Choose to run.
I mean, they were slow after round one, Julio, but in round number one, we did see herds creep down main stairs. And that was a little bit of a surprise there when we got him. He actually made his way into church and was able to take you out. Were you expecting that sort of aggression from W7M straight out the gate?
Yeah, Hertz is a pretty aggressive player, and he did that in the first round. It was good, but no backups for him, so just die and get the bomb side too. But yeah, it was a good play for them, especially in round number one to dictate the pace of the game, you know, for them. But yeah.
It seemed like something you guys would do, because I know that you guys like to dictate the pace right from the off. And I found it quite funny that it was Herds who was trying to do that in this one.
For sure, yeah, they tried that. Yeah, I think it was a great play.
I'm very interested. Oh, sorry. I just wanted to say I'm very interested in the original bans that we actually had for the operators early on, because the Maverick ban, the Valkyrie ban that you guys did made a lot of sense. But how did you feel about the Ace ban that W7M tried to use?
I think they just like were not able to ban like Maverick and Thatcher, so they just ban Ace and use Hibana. I think it was not like an expressive ban, but just ban something, you know. Like we not gonna use Ace, so let's ban. I think it was they thought like this.
Well, Julio, thanks so much for joining us, mate. Congratulations on the win. And a tidy piece of work there from NIP. Congratulations, mate, and I'm sure we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you. See you next week.
Wow, you gotta love the confidence there. You gotta love the confidence. See you next week, he says. We are just about ready to wrap things up here at the end of our first round, of course, but don't go anywhere. There's plenty more Siege coming your way, so stick around, everyone. On the other side of this break, we'll be back with match number 2. So we'll see you back here after this.